What's up, everybody? On today's show, Calipari is staying put at Kentucky. So now what happens?
You are Locked On SEC, your daily podcast on the Southeastern Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And what's up, everybody? Welcome into Locked On SEC. It's great to have you guys along. Today's episode, we're going to get you caught up on the latest Kentucky news with Calipari staying put. Princely Umanmielen, the former Florida DE lineman, takes a shot at Ole Miss. And a little glimpse at the EA Sports, glimpse of the stadium with their new college football stadium video game coming out. We get a glimpse at Mizzou. But I'm Chris Gordy. Thanks for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Shout out to everydayers. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. And this episode is brought to you by Nissan. Are you the kind of driver who likes to push things a little further? Ever wonder what adventure could be around the next corner? Take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, or Nissan Armada, and go find your next big adventure. Check them out at nissanusa.com. All right, we got to jump into the news coming out in the last 24 hours or so, as John Calipari is officially going to remain as the Kentucky basketball coach for at least another year. Cal's postseason meeting with UK Athletic Director Mitch Barnhart took place, and the news came out very quickly. John Calipari is staying at least another year. Now, Mitch Barnhart confirmed that decision on Tuesday evening, putting out a statement on social media saying, as we normally do at the end of every year, Calipari and I have had conversations about the direction of our men's basketball program and can confirm he will return for his 16th season as our head coach. Now, on Wednesday, Mitch Barnhart did a sit-down interview sitting next to John Calipari with LEX 18 News in Lexington. And a lot of Kentucky fans are saying, awkward, these guys don't get along. It's been reported for a long time that they're not big fans of each other. I guess the personalities clash and all that kind of stuff. Barnhart did acknowledge a perception exists that his relationship with John Calipari is strained at best. Barnhart said he hires coaches to do their job and then tries to stay out of their way. He admitted he could be around the men's basketball program more, and he said he's going to work on doing that moving forward. But he said at the end of the day, I trust him to do his job, and we always want to make adjustments to get better, so let's put the notion of no relationship here out the door. Calipari kind of laughed at it. He said there are so many things out there that aren't accurate. You can't defend all this stuff. You just have to let it go, and hopefully people with logic look at it and say, look, they've done a lot of good together. There's been some really high highs and some low lows, but that's part of athletics. How do we do this thing together? So as far as the meeting together, Calipari detailed how he plans to shape this roster going forward. Says he wants to add more experience following a season that will lose two upperclassmen, seniors Trey Mitchell and Antonio Reeves. Barnhart said one message he had for Cal during their meeting was the hope that whenever the time comes that they do depart UK on a high note. He said both of us want to exit well. Not a lot of people in our industry in college athletics get to exit the way you want to exit. He said, I want us to be able to exit well and be able to say we left it in a really good spot for the people that came behind us. That's kind of the vibe you get too. I mean, Calipari didn't want to go out like that, right? Bunch of early exits in the tournament and, a decade removed from a national championship. If he's going to walk away from Kentucky or retire, like, you want to do it on a high note. So we'll see. A lot of roster questions still ahead for this Kentucky group. When you look at the likes of, like I said, Antonio Reeves and Trey Mitchell, both out of eligibility. And you got Rob Dillingham, Reed Shepard, DJ Wagner, Justin Edwards, Big Z, Ugana. I mean, there's a lot of guys here that are they going to be back? Now, Shepard and Dillingham are both projected currently as top 10 NBA picks. It would be a major surprise to see either of those freshmen come back. But they're going to have to hit up the transfer portal. He's got a great recruiting class coming in. But as we know, you can't win with a bunch of freshmen. You got to have a good balance of veterans with the talented freshmen. But John Calipari staying at Kentucky will be back next year, but he has got to get this program back. I mean, let's call it what it is. He's got to win some tournament games next year. If he's early exit again, he will absolutely be gone after next season. In a couple other college basketball or SEC basketball nuggets, Nate Oates, talking with the media yesterday, said Alabama needs to get their offense clicking. They were not doing that against Grand Canyon this past week. He said we need to play like the number one offense in the country to play with North Carolina this weekend. Also noted that their defense has to step up against a really physical Tar Heel team. So Alabama's a little bit of a slight underdog against North Carolina, but I don't know. The more and more I start to look at it and say they're the underdog, they're playing with house money. Why not? Nate Oates has had these great tournament runs. You get to the Sweet 16 here. Why not? Go out there, play like your hair's on fire, and leave it all out there. See if what Alabama can do. On the flip side, Tennessee prepare for their Sweet 16 matchup, and news came out, Dalton Knecht, one of 4 finalists for the Naismith Player of the Year award, and Tennessee transfer is a finalist alongside Zach Edey of Purdue, won the award last year, along with R.J. Davis from North Carolina and Jamal Shedd from Houston. The Naismith Trophy Men's Player of the Year will be awarded Sunday, April 7th at the Final Four in Phoenix. Knecht last week became Tennessee's 4th consensus first-team All-American, adding All-American honors from the National Association of Basketball Coaches and the U.S. Basketball Writers Association. Joined Grant Williams, Bernard King, and Dale Ellis as the only consensus first-team All-Americans for the Vols. So awesome category to be in there. By the way, tournament will get back underway today. If you're listening to this on Thursday, we will have Alabama versus North Carolina, 8:40 Central, Thursday evening on CBS. And then Tennessee will play the late game on Friday. That will be against Creighton, 9 Central, 10 Eastern on TBS and True TV. So be some late nights here to see what the remaining SEC basketball teams can do. But wish best of luck to Tennessee and Alabama. I'd like to see them keep going here after everybody crapped on the SEC and they were like 1-5 after last Friday, and everybody's like, "Oh, they stink." Let's ride these two teams, see how far they can go. All right, there you have it. That is the latest going on the basketball side of things. Thank you guys for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Coming up next, we're going to switch gears, talk some football. Ole Miss players, coaches, some fighting words. We'll get to that here in just a second, right here on Locked On SEC. But first, this episode is presented to you by our friends over at Nissan, and this week's March Madness bracket highlight is brought to you by Nissan. Each week we are picking a team that stands out, a team that has pushed it further than the rest. Just like any of the all-new 2024 Nissan SUVs, these guys were able to take it to the next level. And today we're talking about the North Carolina Tar Heels. They are described as an armada. The 1 seed is as hardcore as it gets out there, so it's no wonder they secured a spot in the Sweet 16 this Thursday against Alabama in the NCAA tournament. They are a favorite picked by many to make a run for a title. They just won one a couple years ago. So North Carolina Tar Heels like an armada, but hey, can Alabama be the Pathfinder? Can they find their way through this whole thing? Go take the Nissan Rogue, the Nissan Pathfinder, or Nissan Armada, and go find your next big adventure. You can check out all the great vehicles available there at nissanusa.com. Go shop nissanusa.com, see all the great vehicles that they have to offer, particularly those big-time SUVs that everybody's getting in on the Rogue, the Pathfinder, and the Armada. One more time, it's nissanusa.com. Hey, also want to remind you about our friends over at Better Together. If your bracket's already busted and you're tired of the same old daily fantasy grind, where you make a roster, you cross your fingers, you hope for the best, or losing on the last leg of your pick'em entry, introducing Better Together, the first cooperative daily fantasy platform where teamwork triumphs talent, and you get to play with your friends, not against them. You pick more or less on real-time player stats, strategize with your partner to boost your odds, and climb the leaderboard together. So go grab a friend and join the social daily fantasy sports movement. The best thing about Better Together, and it's Better, Bettor, is it provides a sense of community. You get to meet and work together with fellow fans of your favorite teams. And if you're an experienced player in the DFS world, this is an immersive way to learn all about it. You team up with and follow the lead of some experienced friends and teammates in a team contest. Do this now. Go download the app. It's Better Together, Bettor, together from the App Store. Go sign up and use our promo code Locked On. That is going to give you a chance to win your share of over $1,000 in cash prizes. Again, remember the code Locked On, LOCKEDON, because winning alone is fun, but it's better together. See what they did there? Bettor, Better Together. Download the app and get your friends signed up, because that's what's going to be so fun, is you get to join with your friends and get in on the action. Better Together. Download it now. Going along here, Locked On SEC. Hey, are you guys watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day and you got to turn down the volume with all the shouting? Stephen A. Smith, that is preposterous. Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube, or the free Amazon Fire TV Channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. All right, we got to get to this story because, look, Ole Miss, they are not afraid of anybody this upcoming season. They're not backing down. They had the best transfer class. They bring back a ton of their offensive talent, like Jackson Dart, and one of their new pieces, Ole Miss edge Princely Umanmielen, coming over from the Florida Gators, and he had some harsh words for the Florida coaching staff following his transfer over to the Rebels. Princely was he's out of practice with the Ole Miss Rebels and doing his thing at the podium, talking with the media. And he is likely circled November 23rd on his calendar. The Rebels travel to Gainesville in the penultimate weekend of the regular season to face the Gators in the Swamp. But this week, Umanmielen calling out his former coaches and spread across social media very quickly. He said, "I feel like I was one of the best in the country as far as pass rushing. Something from last season that I could work on better on my drops and attacking the run game a little bit. I feel like here I'm getting coached harder for things like that. I feel like at Florida, the way I was coached was kind of almost as if they were just telling me to go out there, just go use your talent, if that makes sense. But here I got Coach Lou Spanos, Coach Joyner. They're really on me about the little things. He said Coach Lou's really going through the progressions and the drops and the routes that are being run when I have to go into coverage. When I was at Florida, they would just tell me, go drop to this area. And I have to figure everything else out on my own. But here they really go into depth. I feel like I'm actually getting developed here." Wow. Shots fired from Princely Umanmielen. But yeah, look, we know there's dysfunction over there in the Swamp. We know things are not going great for Billy Napier so far. They have a terribly tough schedule again. But Umanmielen saying he felt like he wouldn't be developed at Florida is a sting for Billy Napier and his staff. And this comes on the heels of, we had Trevor Etienne come out, on a podcast a week or so ago. This is before his DUI, which kind of sidetracked things over there at Georgia. But he came out and said, why do I want to be, splitting time or being the number 2 at Florida? It's not a very good team when I can go to a national championship contender in Georgia and go be their featured back, go be RB1. So there's been a lot of these former Gators who've transferred this offseason taking shots at the Gators, and Princely Umanmielen joins one of them, or joins that crew right here. But look, last year's defensive line coach for Florida, Sean Spencer, he's now coaching in College Station. He's now at Texas A&M, so I'm sure he's probably taken these words to heart as well. He was Umanmielen's position group coach last year, but the situation on the defensive coaching staff in Gainesville last year was certainly dysfunctional. And I like Austin Armstrong a lot, as, he's a young defensive coordinator still on the come up and trying to make his way. But there's a reason they went out and got Ron Roberts from Auburn to bring him in and really be another voice in that defensive room with Austin Armstrong. But going to be fun to see what Umanmielen does this year. He had 7 sacks on a defense that combined for 22 last year. But I like the group up front with Ole Miss. I mean, obviously, you bring in big Walter Nolan and, from A&M, and they got some dogs. Pete Golding has got some dudes. When you got Jared Ivey back, you got J.J. Pegues back, you bring in Princely and Walter Nolan, Cam Franklin coming in as a freshman. It's going to be a fun group. And if you missed our preview we did with Stephen Willis a couple weeks ago, previewing the Ole Miss Rebels, obviously he's extremely high on them. One more note on the Ole Miss Rebels, and this is Lane Kiffin. Earlier this month, the NCAA Football Rules Committee announced it proposed optional technology rules for this coming season, including coach-to-player communication through the helmet of a player on the field. And Lane Kiffin, obviously, he's got a viewpoint on this. Basically, a green dot will be on the helmet of the player that has the headset on the field, similar to how quarterbacks communicate in the huddle and all that sort of thing. But Lane Kiffin saying this week, he said, I've been part of these conversations for a long time in SEC meetings. They're usually defensive head coach driven about, hey, we need to have our middle linebacker like the NFL has this so that people can stop stealing our signals. He said, it's here and we utilize it in practice and our first time getting used to it. He said, I think it's a cheat code offensively for us. He said, I think it's really like having a cheat code in Madden on offense. I don't know if they've really thought defensively what exactly that means. I think the assumption is, they just talk to the quarterback. There's really more to it than that, especially the way that we run our offense here without giving too much into it. What it allows us to do with signals, with the whole process, I think is a cheat code offensively. So Lane Kiffin letting you know, if you don't know, now you know. Ole Miss is going to score some points this year, y'all. So as long as Jackson Dart's healthy, maybe they have to go to Walker Howard if he gets hurt, but they're going to score a lot of points. And you almost kind of wish they could have kept, the running back from going over to Ole Miss. But look, they'll be okay with Ulysses Bentley, Kendrick Riscano. So we'll see what they're able to do there on offense over there at Ole Miss. But going to be loaded as always with Trey Harris and Juice Wells coming in and Jordan Watkins, Caden Priestcorn back at tight end. They're just loaded with weapons, and now Lane Kiffin can talk to his quarterback in the helmet. Yeah, they're going to be just fine. But again, just wish Quinshon Judkins would have stuck around there. Would have been fun to see what else they were able to do. All right, when we return here on Locked On SEC, a few tidbits. We're just going to jump around the football conference. We had a couple pro days yesterday, so we'll give you what folks are saying on those. Still more to come here on Locked On SEC, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. Hey, this episode is presented to you by our friends over at Fire TV. Fire TV is your destination for sports, from live games to highlights to in-depth analysis. Fire TV has got amazing viewing experiences on smart TVs, as well as the Fire TV stick that you could plug into your existing TV that provides access to millions of movies and TV episodes, as well as free and live TV. Whether it's opening weekend for baseball, the college basketball tournament, you're going to want to make sure you have a Fire TV. And Fire TV recently created Fire TV channels to deliver a constant supply of the latest videos from your favorite sports brands, all for free. And that includes all of us at Locked On and most of the big pro sports leagues and college conferences as well. Fire TV channels let you dive into all the game analysis, highlights, and more to keep up to date with all the latest in the world of sports, from college hoops, NBA, MLB, and lots more. You can also get great news, entertainment, gaming, travel, cooking videos as well. Go check out Fire TV channels on Fire TV and Alexa devices. If you haven't checked it out yet, you should. Trust me on this. Go learn more at Amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. That's Amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. All right, rolling along here, Locked On SEC, and we got a few tidbits to do this. Just some football tidbits going on around the conference, so let's do it. Let's go around the conference.
Boots out to the right. Takes the handoff. What a catch!
Around the conference.
We jump over to LSU as they had their pro day yesterday. We had a lot of pro days going on. We had Ole Miss, Tennessee, LSU, but over at LSU, a lot of massive NFL turnout there because you got Jaden Daniels, the Heisman-winning quarterback, who is expected to go top 5, and I think some people are leaning now to even saying almost guaranteed to go top 3 in the draft. And then, of course, Malik Neighbors, one of the top wide receivers in this draft, expected to go top 10. So you had NFL head coaches and GMs from a bunch of different teams. I think head coaches from the Patriots, Giants, Raiders, Saints, Bears, Commanders, all there, and a lot of people thinking either the Commanders or Patriots could be in play for Jaden Daniels. But obviously, star-studded event, and Daniels looked really good. Measured 9 3/8 inches on his hands, which people love that. And then, had a little bit of an aerial assault there with Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr. And as for Neighbors, he was clocked. Some people had him at a 4.35. I think even one had him as a 4.32 unofficial. But either way, he was blazing in his 40-yard dash, and you combine that with the 42-inch vertical and the 10'9" broad jump, and Malik Neighbors basically locked himself in as a top 10 pick. I think some people said he ain't getting past the New York Giants, so he is set up in a really good spot to go very high, and of course Jaden Daniels as well. And I've even seen some people making the argument that Neighbors could jump Marvin Harrison Jr. if the right team falls in love with him. So it's going to be fascinating to watch that and see how that plays out as we get closer to the draft, see how many SEC guys go in the first round. It's always a ton. Over at Tennessee, the report was they came to watch Joe Milton throw the ball to the moon, and he impressed. Joe Milton rocketing passes almost 80 yards to wide receivers sprinting to the opposite end zone at Tennessee's outdoor practice field on Wednesday, and scouts from all 32 NFL teams were wowing and saying, oh, that'll play in the league. And the group also included Hendon Hooker and T. Martin out there checking him out. T. Martin's now the Baltimore Ravens quarterbacks coach. But Joe Milton saying after, he said, I felt like I threw the ball really well. I feel like every team wants to take deep shots, and not every quarterback can do it. And that's what they love about my game. So we'll see. Milton kind of projected as a mid to late round pick, but there's no denying. I mean, the arm talent is there. It's just everything else coming together for him. That's, making the simple throws, the simple outs, and doing that consistently. That's just kind of been where Milton has had an opportunity for improvement. But we'll see. Again, rooting for all these SEC guys getting ready for the draft. All right, a couple spring practice notes, just a couple quick hitters, kind of looking at some of the notes around the league. On Wednesday, we got to see Jackson Arnold throwing the ball over there at Oklahoma practice quite a bit. I think the media was allowed to see like an hour and a half of practice. So got to see a lot of Jackson Arnold, and according to reports, he looked sharp. Got a chance to link up with his new weapon, Deion Burks, a handful of times. That's a name you want to keep an eye on. And honestly, for SEC fans, a lot of these names I mentioned, you're probably not even familiar with. Jackson Arnold, the big 5-star quarterback that got a chance to start in the bowl game after Dylan Gabriel left, and, figures to be the guy this year. And can he take that next step and wow now that they're playing in the SEC? A few other notes from Oklahoma's practice yesterday. Second-year wide receiver Jaquays Petaway led the team at the beginning of practice, and they pointed out a youngster potentially sliding more into a vocal leadership role. And then read that running back Caleb Hicks, hard not to notice him pretty quickly when he got some reps with the running backs. So, again, not saying these guys are going to be studs next year in the SEC, but maybe just some names to keep an eye on, from Deion Burks to Caleb Hicks, Petaway at wide receiver. But Jackson Arnold's going to be slinging it. We know that. Oklahoma is going to throw the football a lot. Over at South Carolina, I was reading an article from 24/7 Sports. They said that Shane Beamer's goal this offseason in the transfer portal was to acquire immediate impact talent. And they seem to be doing that. Transfer linebackers Bengali Kamara from Pitt and Demetrius Knight from Charlotte, they have jumped off the page, according to 24/7 Sports, along with former Georgia Tech edge rusher Kyle Kennard. Also, I think it was Brad Crawford saying in recent conversations with those close to the program who've observed practices, offensive lineman Torricelli Simpkins from North Carolina Central and interior D lineman DeAndre Jules from Pitt have also stood out. North Texas running back transfer Oscar Attaway making the most of his extended opportunities in the backfield, with the Arkansas transfer Rocket Sanders, who's been limited. Juju McDowell's been on the shelf with a collarbone for spring. But Attaway is probably going to carry the bulk of the load in the spring game at running back, with South Carolina State transfer Jawan Howell also in the mix. No go-to wide receiver has been identified yet for Lenora Sellers, who is going to be the new quarterback there for South Carolina. But former Miami of Ohio wide receiver Gage Lavardane seems to be making a play every practice, according to one source. He averaged 16 yards per catch and caught 6 touchdowns last year for the Redhawks, and has split reps with others in that wide receiver room. So who's going to be the next Juice Wells, the next Xavier Leggett? Got to find that guy. But good to hear a lot of those new transfers are looking good so far for Shane Beamer's crew. All right, and finally, we are getting our first glimpse of EA Sports college football stadium screenshots. If you guys are listening on the podcast, you can pull this up over on our YouTube page. If you're watching YouTube, well, then you can see it. But much anticipated video game coming out this summer. Been over a decade since it was last released, and Billy Jones, a journalism student at Missouri, was able to secure a couple of screenshots he tweeted out following a Sunshine Law request. He said he put in the request and they had to honor it. And so he got some screenshots of the Tigers' Faurot field and some stills where you can see developers have included a level of stadium details we've never seen in a video game before. It is pretty in-depth from every inch and angle of the football stadium. So it's going to be fun, man. It's going to be fun to see what Alabama, Tennessee, Florida, LSU, what all those stadiums look like in the video game and the authenticness of it. But again, shout out to Billy Jones, KCOU Sports up there at Mizzou, put in a Sunshine Law request and was able to get an early glimpse of what the video game is going to look like. So, you know, a lot of people said hopefully it's not clunky like Madden. It seems like Madden has kind of, you know, just recycled the same game in a lot of years. Like Madden 19 was the same as Madden 21, the same as Madden 23. With the video game being, the college game being absent for a decade. I mean, there's so much to get caught up on. I mean, we got to have the new conferences. We got to have the college football playoff in this. We got to have the transfer portal. We got to have, I mean, every NIL deals. Got to have all this in the new video game. So hopefully they've got a good bit of that in there. But again, graphics look cool, and I was a big fan of the old video games there, of the NCAA football games. So good to have those, see some glimpses of that, and good to know that it is on its way coming soon. All right. Thank you guys for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Shout out to our everydayers. Keep coming back and checking us out each and every day. For your second listen, go check out Locked On has launched their first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. It's called Locked On Sports Today. Here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day. And they're going to have you covered all throughout the rest of the tournament. And you know, all our great hosts who host all of our great shows, like the guys who do Locked On Bama, Luke Robinson, and Jimmy, they do an awesome job. Eric Kane does an awesome job. Locked On Vols. You know they're going to be reacting live or as soon as the games end this coming weekend. So hopefully Tennessee and Alabama keep the SEC alive in the NCAA tournament. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of Locked On SEC. We will talk to you guys tomorrow. Have a great day out there, everybody.